Hi, and welcome to the Fashion Modeling Online Workshop with Aaron Marcus. Aaron Marcus is America's premier acting and commercial modeling career coach. He's also the top-selling author and founder of HowToModel.com, one of Google's top-ranked acting and modeling career sites. Aaron has been a full-time actor and commercial model for over 27 years. To date, he's been cast 1,197 times. You've seen Aaron in projects such as Burn After Reading, Law and Order: Criminal Intent, The West Wing, Cry Baby, America's Most Wanted, Molson Beer, McDonald's, Kmart, A Modest Suggestion, HBO's The Wire, Disney World, and you'll be able to see him in a scene with Judi Dench in her new movie, Philomena. Aaron has also appeared in print ads throughout the United States, Europe, Netherlands, and Asia. He has written what many consider the most important book for commercial modeling, entitled How to Become a Successful Commercial Model, now in its 5th edition. He also writes and publishes the Tear Sheet newsletter. It's a quarterly commercial modeling and acting newsletter. He's given over 500 workshops in 4 countries and also offers monthly online workshops for actors and models, as well as private one-on-one online coaching sessions. Aaron, we're excited to start the workshop today.
Hi, and welcome to the show. We have a great guest today. Her name is Vanessa Helmer. She is the owner of Model Scouts, which is a company that's been around for over 12 years, and she's actually been a scout in the industry for over 30. So first of all, Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Aaron. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. You know, I always like to start off the conversation when we're talking about fashion modeling, which is what you are an expert in. This is what you've been spending your life doing. And, a lot of times people will see people walking down the runway doing very, glamorous shows. But what's really, very important for people to know about are what are the exact kinds of statistics that men and women need to have if they are really going to be considered for fashion modeling. So for women, what are the height requirements?
For women, ideally they should be 5'9" to 6 feet maximum. However, there are exceptions to every rule. We've seen girls 5'8", 5'7". Kate Moss is about 5'6.5", 5'7". But as a general rule, we like to look at 5'9" to 6 feet for women, and for men, 6 feet to 6'2". Any taller can be a bit of a problem, but again, exceptions to every rule, and we're seeing that the industry is becoming a little less rigid about certain things, about height and stats and stuff. So even though I give you those stats, I don't want people to be discouraged if they don't fit right in there.
Right, and the other thing too is for women, would you say that typically measurements are going to be 34, 24, 34?
That's a starting point, 34, 24, 34, and then you can have a range. A little bit less, a little bit more is okay. Again, not quite as rigid as it used to be, but those are our starting points that we work from. Yeah.
And then for guys, typically we're looking at a 40 jacket?
38, 40 jacket. That's right.
And it could be long or regular?
Yes.
Okay, so now we got the numbers out of the way, and just so people know, the reason why those numbers exist is because, and I don't know how they came up with this, but basically I know the designers believe that their clothes will look best in a certain size. So what they do is they create samples, and the models have to fit into their sample sizes.
Correct.
And they don't make the samples for the model. So, but like you were saying, and it's true for everything in this world, there are exceptions to the rule. And so, the fact is, if you don't, hit those exact numbers, but this is something you're really interested in pursuing, this part of the industry, then definitely you need to look into it, because that way you can give it, your best shot and really see whether you are the exception to the rule. Now, and just so that people do know, there is another form of modeling, another division of modeling. It's called commercial modeling, and I know you work with commercial models as well on Model Scouts. And basically, the commercial models come in all different sizes, shapes, all kinds of looks, heights, things like that. So I know for commercial modeling, and that's what I do. That's half of my work. The other work is acting. Basically, it's available to everybody. Now, in the fashion world, for somebody who is living in a small market, whether it's whether it's in the Soviet Union, whether it's in Canada and South America, throughout the U.S., and somebody's thinking, I want to look into fashion. I'm really interested in fashion modeling. What would you recommend that they do?
Well, the first thing would be to ask themselves how they want to approach the market, as far as, do they want to be a fashion model that travels all over the world? Do they want to be one that just stays locally because they have other commitments, maybe at home and in the local area? For me, I'm looking for models that want to travel all over the world. That to be a successful fashion model, you really have to be able to work in many different markets. So that would be New York, Paris, Milan, Tokyo. Those are the major markets. So ideally, we look for those. Now, having said that, we also have models that just work over in Tokyo or Asian markets, and that's it. They don't work anywhere else, and that's okay. But to start, so ask yourself the question, how far do you want to go with it? If you want to go further, like out there, you need exposure. That's the number one thing that you need, is exposure to as many agents, scouts, people in the industry as possible. Modeling schools, you don't need a modeling class to become a model. And we find that many of the local areas have modeling schools, and they're very good. Some of them can really help you get into the international market, but if they're not able to do that, then you're really restricted to just local, and it can be very expensive. You probably will not make back the money that you've invested into that. So what we do is, people can come to us because of the internet, which has just been amazing for our industry. And Erin, you and I have talked about that before, about how we used to have to mail pictures out and wait for weeks and weeks to get a response. But now we do everything online. So they can come to us at Model Scouts, and we will give them the exposure that they need. And then the odds go up, because there's so many different types of agencies that we work with all over the world and in every different market, that they're going to get that exposure that they need and hopefully get signed. So
how does it work for a scout? Somebody will email you some photos, correct?
Yes. They can email them. Ideally, we like them to create a profile at Model Scouts, because then, in addition to us and myself and the staff here, they're going to be seen by many, many more people than just myself. So yes.
Okay, so once those photos come in, then what is the next step?
Well, we will look at them and see if they have a look that we think is right for the different markets that we work with. And then if they're good, if they were just to email them to me, then we would contact them and just ask them what their plans are, what they want to do, get to know them a little bit, let them know what we do, and think of a plan of how we would promote them.
Actually, excuse me, Vanessa, I just wanted to jump in for 1 second, because you said something that was very interesting that I think people would like to know about. You said, there are different looks for different markets.
Mm-hmm.
So would you explain that a little bit more? So basically, somebody could send you some photos, and you would be thinking, I mean, it's because you've experienced this, millions of times, oh, this person would be great for the Asian market. This person would be great for the European market. This person would be great for, a different type of market. What are some of the tangible things that you can talk about? Like, what are some of the looks that would make somebody successful in one market and not in another market?
Well, for one, height could be an issue. Girls that are 5'7", 5'6", and I've even placed girls that are 5'4" with big agencies. So again, that's when we talked about statistics. I never want people to get thinking that they have to fit within this, range that they have to. They don't. But so in the Asian market, Tokyo, Taipei, Hong Kong, those kind of places are a little more forgiving about height, and they like a smaller girl, which may be too small for Paris. So Paris likes the glamazons. 5'10", runway, there's a lot of shows in Paris. So that girl may not be perfect for Paris, but she could do very well in catalog in Taipei or some of those other Asian markets, and those are good paying markets.
And so for those types of jobs, it's not going to be runway modeling work, it's going to be more catalog work.
Right, and there's also fit modeling, which is really good. We work with several agencies that do fit modeling, and what they're looking for is people that have specific measurements for different sizes, because manufacturers need to try clothes on a human being when they're fitting for petites for, size 4, size 2, size 22. It's a range. So these are fit models that never are seen by cameras and in magazines and things like that, but they work always behind the scenes in warehouses and supply companies.
And those are steady gigs. Those are steady gigs for models.
Yeah, you can work for the same company for forever. As long as you keep your measurements good, you really become one of their staff in a way, but that's a good way to get into
And so for the Asian markets, so then there really isn't runway modeling work. It really is pretty much strictly catalog work, but it's still fashion
No, there's
clothing.
lots of runway. There's lots of runway in the Asian market, sure. And many of the top girls that work in New York and are supermodels always go over to Asia as well. But what I'm saying is there could be a market for someone who isn't doing the runway and isn't doing the supermodel type thing, but they're doing a lot of catalog work. I mean, I had girls that modeled teapots.
Really?
So it's huge when you think of the amount of manufacturing that goes on over in those countries. Yeah, it's great.
And so sometimes would they still be modeling high-end designer clothes in the catalogs, or is
Not
it?
necessarily. They could, but not necessarily. It could be just manufacturing things. The modeling industry is not all about the supermodels, the high fashion Victoria's Secret. That's wonderful. That's great. But there's an entirely different market where people can have a wonderful career and do very well in something they enjoy, and they're basically self-employed and travel around the world, meet interesting people. It's terrific.
Well,
So
that sounds, excuse me, I was just going to say, I mean, a lot of those kinds of jobs sound like straight on commercial modeling jobs. I mean, I've
yeah,
done those things in the States where it could be doing anything from mouse traps and catalogs for glassware or silverware, sometimes any hand models for those kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, there are many different types of opportunities. But when you were also talking about different markets and different looks, aside from the height, and I don't know if it's the kind of thing, I mean, I've been around some pretty high-end fashion agents who, when I've tried to pinpoint them about what are you looking for, quite often the response that I get is, I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah.
I
We
want to
know it
see
when we see it.
personality. And it's like, well, what do you mean personality? What does that mean? I'll know it when I see it. So, and I don't know if that's what you were going to say, or are there any other kind of specific looks aside from the height that someone would allow them to work in Paris or or have a different kind of look if they're trying to work in Europe or Scandinavian countries or.
Mhm. Well, there are commercial modeling agencies in Paris. It's not all about fashion. Generally, though, those agencies don't import models from other places, for 2 months or for short periods of time. It's like when the collections are happening, the way that the fashion agencies do. But so for what the fashion agencies are looking for is, I don't know how to put it. It's just a different type of a beauty. It's not an obvious beauty. You look at models and often people say, how can she be a model? I don't get it.
That's what people say about me sometimes. I understand that comment.
Well, now that goes into professionalism too. And I want to talk. I was going to mention
We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah, a commercial model. Yeah. So, because what makes you different from another guy that looks like you? Well, it's all about professionalism, right? But anyway, I think it's not an obvious beauty that we look for. It's not the beauty pageant girl, the smiley, perfect curvy body. That's not what fashion agencies are looking for. They're looking for the ugly duckling. They're looking for that tall, geeky, different, not so obvious, something a little bit different. That's why you don't have to have perfect teeth or a perfect nose, or it's the whole thing. What I will look for though in a fashion model is length of their limbs. Do they have a long neck? Do they have long arms, long legs? That sort of thing. And even if they're shorter, smaller, they can have a long neck, and that makes gives the impression that they look taller. So that's good. And that brings me, to when you take your photos. Always make sure you have a long neck. It's really important. Really,
Yeah.
really important.
And,
Yeah.
and I guess the other thing that holds true as well is not only are certain markets looking for certain types of models, but that what also holds true is there are certain fashion agents that are looking for a very specific look. And once
Mhm.
again, I've been around some fashion agents and I've looked at the portfolios of some of the models they represent. And it's amazing. I mean, some of the fashion models that I saw kind of shocked me. Some of these were very hard edge, um, almost like scary, very harsh makeup, um, razor edge kinds of looks. And then there
Yeah.
are others where it was more, all American kinds of beauty. And so I guess one of the real advantages of having somebody like you, you're kind of like the person that knows all the different players in the industry,
Mhm.
and you can pinpoint, okay, that agent would be perfect for this person. I would never think of sending this person to that agent. And so it seems like it's really helpful to have a guide and a mentor to really help you along and try to connect you with the right, professional.
Totally, because we know the whole market. We know markets that you maybe never thought of. We have connections with people that might owe us a favor, and so we can get you in that agency. I mean, there's a whole political thing as well, and in a good way, and not in a bad way. But we know everybody. We know what they're looking for. We see them at different events, so. It is important, and to work with us, other than creating a profile and posting it on our site, which gives you incredible exposure to all those agencies. We don't charge for our services to do it. We make a commission when people work. So why wouldn't you use somebody who has 30 years experience?
Well, and I guess the other thing too is, and this will kind of lead us into the professionalism. I mean, along with the physical look and understanding, what agents are looking for, I would also tend to think that certain personalities will work better with certain agents.
Hmm.
And I can imagine that, you might have somebody that physically they look perfect, but you just know they're going to clash. It's not going to be a good marriage between the model and the agent. And once again, for somebody with your kinds of experience, you are able to really fine tune and psychologically understand who's going to have a good marriage here. And it seems like that, especially in the fashion world, it's crucial because a lot of times people don't really understand it's a hard job. Look, you're not changing pulling shingles off of a roof in 110-degree weather, but there is a lot of work
But you're
involved.
riding the subway in 110-degree weather. That can be just
And you're attending,
pretty bad
tons
too.
of go-sees every single day, and you're out on, the beach, you're out in some area and it's freezing and it's very cold and you're, doing all kinds of crazy shots and it could be long hours and once again, I'm not trying to compare it to other kinds of jobs, but it's not like just sitting there and having somebody take pictures of you all day and that's all you do. It is a job. And I guess the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, and whether we're talking about acting or commercial modeling or fashion modeling, I assume that a majority of the people who have tremendous success are people who know how to run themselves as a good business, because that's
Absolutely.
all part of being a success, is knowing how to take care of yourself. And maybe you could even talk about, and I remember you've mentioned some things to me in the past before where somebody might send in photos to you and they might have an interesting look, a good look, but there are other things that they are doing that are pretty unprofessional, that immediately this isn't somebody that I want to work with. Maybe you can just talk about that a little bit.
Well, especially when you're first sending your photos out or you wanted to get the attention of agents, first impressions are very important. You want the agent to think that you're well organized, easy to work with, have a nice personality, and that you are not going to be high maintenance. If I think that a model's going to be high maintenance, I run. I just am not interested. I don't have to. I don't. there's too many other good models that I can work with, and I don't want to work with somebody that is just not going to be a pleasant situation. So in the beginning, when you're sending your photos out, make sure that you include all your information. I can't tell you, Erin, how many times I've received photos from models that are interesting to me that I would like to know more, but I'm so busy because I've got so many photos that I see every day that I just don't have the time to follow up if they don't include their name, where they're located, their phone number, their stats. I don't need a long bio. I don't want resumes. I don't want to know that you've dreamt about being a model for your whole life. I want the meat. I want height, measurements, bust, waist, and hips if you're female, jacket
Email
size
address,
for men.
I guess.
Email address. Well, that would come with the email. Yeah, yeah. Don't email me to ask me what my email address is. I've had that. Don't scan your face in the scanner. I had that one. Sorry.
Yeah, and
So,
I guess also, and I was
yeah,
just going to say, and I realize that in the fashion world, which is different than with commercial modeling, those initial shots to an agent can just be, photos taken at home with a cell phone or a digital, inexpensive digital camera, because you just need to see what the person looks like, what their body type is like. I mean, there'll be time later if the agent's interested in working with you that then you'll be setting up photo sessions with professional photographers.
right.
But I guess you do still have to make it clean enough so that you can really see them, and you don't want crazy things going on in the background, or maybe
Right.
you can talk about some of those kinds of
Yeah.
shots. Well, I mean, basically, what kind of things would you like to see, what would be helpful for you to see in somebody who is interested in pursuing fashion work?
Well, just straight on, nice snapshot of your face, one smiling, one not smiling, hair pulled back, minimal to no makeup for women. If you're comfortable in a swimsuit, put on a two-piece swimsuit, do a profile, on either side, as well as a full body shot, and that's pretty good. That'll get my interest. It doesn't have to be perfect, and look happy, I guess. Just look nice. You don't have to overdo it, and no over posing. I'm really looking at the statistics. I'm looking at length of limbs and things like that. I know that down the road we can put you with a great photographer, makeup artist, and stylist. So what I'm looking for is the bones, the foundation of what you're presenting. And so that's what I look for in guys. You can just, if you can do a shot with just in jeans or something, and so we can see what your body from the waist up looks like, that's really good. And just your contact information. I get people that just email and go, I want to be a model, and they include some pictures, and I know nothing about them. No height, no
Now,
location.
excuse me, for the guys, do they wear a t-shirt or no top?
Yeah, a t-shirt can be fine, but I'm saying if they're comfortable as well, and they should be comfortable if they want to be a model. Just wearing a jeans and no shirt, because we do want to see what kind of shape they're in, and we don't want male fashion models to be really bulky. We prefer them to be. You can be fit and muscular and cut, but not too big. It will limit you, even though there are some guys that are working in some of the major agencies that are pretty big and pretty muscular. It is limiting the amount of work that they can do. We'd like you to be able to do a lot of stuff. So 42 would be maximum jacket, but you can be really muscular and lean.
Now I was wondering, let's say the best case scenario. So somebody sent, the stuff in, you're really interested. You are connecting them with an agent in another market, and let's say the agent says, well, look, I like to sit down. I want to meet with this person before we, sign contracts and things like that. What kinds of advice would you give to, a model that you found as far as what to say to an agent, during that first meeting? How would you want them to present themselves?
Just be themselves. Just be like you would be meeting anybody else. I understand it's a nerve-wracking experience and you will be nervous. And agents at the highest levels are very nice people. They understand that you're new. They want to make you comfortable. So just try to be yourself and just be polite. And I would have given them some guidance going into it, such we would put their photos in the correct order in their book, which a lot of people don't think that's important. I think it's extremely important to have your photos in the right order. And by right order, I mean start with your best headshot, then go to a full-length body shot. Then you can do some fillers in between, some fashion shots and some interesting things, and then end very strongly. Don't have your worst picture at the end. Have one of your strongest pictures at the end. It's sort of like dessert. They're going to remember that when they leave. They're going to remember what a great ending it was. So,
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and I guess also the adage of, look, it's better to have fewer great shots than to try to fill up, a bunch of photos in a book if some of them are, maybe okay, and then there are some good shots, because it's always best to show them the best of what you have.
Yeah, I had that the other day. A girl, she had about 26 photos or more that she was presenting, and I took it down to 3. And submitted those photos, and I had a response from an agent that absolutely loved her. And I knew if I would have sent all the photos, they would have gone, well, we don't know. Because you know what? You're only as good as your worst photo. You're not as good as your best photo. Yeah, you're only as good as your worst photo. So make sure that your worst, that you don't have any worst photos.
Let me ask you this, and I know you're not, you're not an agent, you're a scout. Have you been around enough agents to know what kind of questions they might ask when somebody comes in?
Well, they would ask.
Wait, let's do this.
Okay.
I'm coming into your office. Okay? And Vanessa just, sent me over from Model Scouts, and I'm coming in to meet with you, and because you saw some of my photos, Vanessa said great things, about me. So I walk in, and I'm sitting down with you. You're the agent. Hi, I'm Aaron Marcus.
Okay.
What happens next?
But here's the thing, Aaron. But by the time that happens, a lot has already gone on, between the agents. They already know pretty much everything they want to know. We probably would have sent videos of the model speaking, walking, showing what they can do.
Speaking. So what would they say in a video?
Oh, for fashion models, it's just, hi, my name is Aaron Marcus, I'm 6 feet tall, my jacket size is XYZ, their stats.
So it's nothing like, if you were a tree, what kind of tree?
No, but I'm going to ask that on the next one.
So you don't find that by the time you have already sent somebody to an agent, they're not sitting down to get an idea if they have the right kind of makeup. When I say makeup, I don't mean physical makeup, but I just mean type of personality that they want to work with. They already know at that point that.
By the time when they go through me, by the time they get in front of a big agency, say in New York, at New York Models or something, they're not going to be there unless there's a pretty good chance that they're already going to be signed, if they haven't been already. So it's sort of a formality now to kind of meet them and talk to them and make sure that they're exactly the same person that those agents and myself have been negotiating about in the videos that they've seen. And if they like that person, and really it's about personality now. Is this girl or guy someone that's friendly, easy to work with? How they're really testing and looking for, how are you going to be with my clients? Because how you are with me when you're just talking and meeting me for the first time, it's a pretty good bet you're going to be that way with my clients. So they want to make sure that you're not shaking and nervous or ask. It's good to ask questions when you get
what kind of questions would somebody be asking an agent?
At that point, in the very beginning, honestly, I would say don't ask a whole lot of questions, because now you're starting to ask, you might be looking a little high maintenance. In the very first one, let the agents really ask you the questions, because they're interviewing you. You're not interviewing them in the beginning. They're interviewing you. So it's like a job interview where the employer or the agency will ask you certain questions about where would you be staying here? Are you going to be in our model's apartment? Or here's the info. They're just going to talk about the details about now the logistics of what's going to happen, where you're
I
going to
mean,
be staying.
would they even ask, you just finished high school. Any thoughts about what you would like to be doing, the next couple of years? What do you want to
Yeah,
do with your life?
yes, and that's a really, really good point, Aaron. Really good, because I'm going to tell you something that's a test question. And no matter what you're thinking as a model, I would say all I want to ever do is be a model. That's it. That's what I'm here to do. That's my commitment right now. If you start saying, oh, I really would like to be in university and I want to finish my degree and I want to do this and that, that's terrific. That's great. Those things can happen after, and not after modeling, but I mean during your modeling career, you can make those arrangements, all that sort of. But in that interview, in that first time, you live, breathe, eat modeling, and that's how you're going to answer those questions. You're not going to tell them that you really want to keep your job as a, secretary or a, financial
Right.
planner or something.
Well, I can tell you that for me, I actually was a full-time college student and I worked part-time as an
Yeah.
actor and a commercial model. And, I realize, in the fashion world, it's going to be a little bit trickier. But then again, and I thought, you've mentioned that sometimes there are models who might go to, different countries during the summer and they'll
Hmm.
take 2 months and
Hmm.
that would allow them to still, be in university or maybe even I guess they could still be in high school and do some of this and still stay in school.
I guess my point was that you want the agent, because as agents and scouts, it's a huge commitment on our part to be promoting you. We don't know if you're going to get booked by the client. We have a pretty good idea, but we don't know. We have to put in a tremendous amount of work and commitment before we see any return on the work that we do, because we work on commission. So we want to know you're as committed to this as we are. If we think you're not so sure, there's other things you might be doing, well, then the agent's going to think, well, I've got other models I might want to spend more time on. They're not going to focus as much on you as probably you need to be. So in that initial time, when you're getting to know the agent and them getting to know you, my advice would be let them know that that's all you're thinking about is being a model. And then you're going to work other stuff around it. I don't know if
But
that's
it is
true or not.
possible though. No, and I hear you, and that
You know
makes
what I'm
sense.
saying?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I mean, you don't want to walk into an interview and say, "Yeah, I really want to be a neurologist, but yeah, let me see what happens here."
Be a
Uh,
neurologist.
right. But I guess I do want to make sure that people understand that you can be in school
Yeah.
and, take off certain time periods and, spend 2 months in another country and, do work there and then even head back to school. Um,
Absolutely. Tyra Banks just got her master's, didn't she? In
did
something?
she?
Yeah.
Actually, I
She
had
did
no
that.
idea.
She went to Harvard. Yeah.
Tyra Banks
Yeah.
went to Harvard?
Yeah, she's smart. She's really
Wow,
smart.
I had no
Smart
idea.
models are good models. Yeah.
Well, she runs an amazing business, so it doesn't,
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it shouldn't surprise me. Look, you don't get television shows, you don't have tremendous success and not be smart somewhere, or certainly surround yourself with very smart people. But it sounds like she runs an amazing corporation
Hmm.
that, that she's the head of. So,
And you know what? Agents are looking for those type of people too. It's become more than just being a coat hanger for designers. It's an all-around career. Can they do television? Can they do movies and things like that? And these agents, and now we're seeing a lot of these, there's a few smaller agencies that have opened up in New York, really boutique agencies that are focusing on that entire thing, not just sending them out for fashion shows and stuff, but an entire management of a wider career.
well, and that's why I've been asked by some people to work with their with their fashion models to help them with auditioning
Hmm.
because you do see fashion models auditioning for TV commercials, and there are plenty of very famous actors who started off as fashion models.
Absolutely. Lots of
And
them, Aaron, and I recommend that to my models too to take acting workshops as far, auditioning, start with the basics, auditioning, how, like, you do those. You do those
yeah, oh,
workshops. Yeah.
absolutely. And the other thing too is, there are, I realize there are certain fashion looks that if somebody has that might not translate at all to commercial modeling. If somebody's like a really high-end supermodel, they're not going to be doing the print ad, cleaning out the toilet bowl with, the three
No,
kids
but
running
they're going to
around.
do a TV commercial for a hair product or something, and they should have some knowledge about what it's like to work on set with a different type of
Oh, right.
camera setup. Yeah.
Absolutely. But what I was getting to was, but there are some fashion models that do make that transition pretty smoothly from fashion to even commercial modeling work.
Hmm.
And so when they need that, look, and that's why there are fashion agencies that have commercial modeling divisions. And now those are beautiful women and incredibly handsome guys. Sometimes those are the ones that might be doing the ads for the cruise lines, for the the high-end watches, for the very expensive cars, the very sophisticated kinds of looks. But there are fashion models that get commercial modeling work, and once again, that's why my philosophy has always been, don't just get stuck into one area, open yourself up because you never know what part of the business you might wind up in. I mean, you mentioned Tyra Banks. Here, she's got a television show. I
Oh.
mean, and if you're only thinking, well, I only want to be a runway model, that's all I want to do, well, then you could be losing out and not using a lot of the talents and the skills that either you have or could learn how to use.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, just to kind of start winding things up, because I know we've got a bunch of questions that have been coming in today. So, for people who are living in other areas, I know you had mentioned that you've worked with people in Russia and many other countries. Basically, once you get their photos and once you decide, okay, this is a good match for a particular agent, what exactly is the next step? I remember you were talking about there was a very young girl from Russia who was, and I can't remember, where was she getting work now?
Well, she was from, are you talking about the 6-year-old?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which kind of
Yeah.
shocked me because I always thought, in the fashion world, I mean, what do you have to
Oh,
be
she's
normally,
special.
like 14, 15, 16, something like that when you're getting started?
Yeah, and even a little bit older now is better. I mean, it's hard when they're 14 to travel, but I have placed girls 14, over in Asia, but they travel with a parent, which is good. So, but the 6-year-old, yeah, she was just very special. And all 6-year-olds are cute and everything, but her parents had her do a few photo shoots. It wasn't just snapshots that she sent for me, so they had taken the extra step and done some very nice fashion shoots. And she's just a little star. She takes dance, which is really good for teaching her how to be, on stage, and she does dance things and gymnastics and stuff like that. But yeah, she's just a great little girl, and she's from Russia, and the parents are terrific, and that always helps. And very low maintenance. We work together as a team. It's not all about just, they make it easy for me, which is great.
Now,
But
excuse me one
mhm,
second. I just have to jump in for 1 second, Vanessa. When you say she did some fashion shots, what
mhm.
exactly would that mean for a 6-year-old?
Well, that's it. Well, you can go on my site and see her photos if you really want to see. Her name is Marta, and she's. You can go to modelscouts.com and check the success stories, and you'll see Marta. And she's blonde, and how can I put it? I know it when I see it. Um, she's just. Uh, she has a
Well,
look. She has.
well, well, let me
Yeah.
ask you this. So, what kind of jobs? First of all, where did you place her, and what kind of jobs is she getting?
Well, she was working in Singapore. We sent her over to Singapore,
So she went
and
from Russia to Singapore.
yeah, and I haven't even met her in person. It's all because it's all about the internet. It's all about video. It's great, but that was a market they never even thought of. They didn't even think of that market. And when I went, okay, here's a great market that has a lot of catalog. They've got a kids division, and she's ready, and her parents are willing to go. And it was a good step because it wasn't too far away from where they live. It's sort of on the same part of the globe. So I thought, let's test them over there. And she did really well and did cute fashion shows and things that she did. And I have placed her with an agency in New York. They're going there at the end of May. And she was placed with another agency in Sweden, which was a market that most people don't even think about. But I knew because of where they're located and they can travel to Sweden quite easily that would be a good market. So yeah, so we're just building up in different markets, and we have some agencies in Italy interested, but we want her to go to New York and just build her book a little bit more, and because the agent in New York really, really wants her, so.
That's just mind-boggling to me.
Because there's Vogue for kids, right? There's Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. They all have kids magazines, and those countries have a lot more magazines and editorials than we do in the United States and Canada. So they have a lot more work that way.
Oh, that's interesting. So basically, just to wind things up, for anybody who has an interest in, doing fashion work, the important thing is, putting together the right photos, the right snapshots, just making sure you get them to people who are really very involved in the industry, people who've been doing this forever, people who have the connections, who've done the networking and can, legitimately place you with some phenomenal people, and keep your mind open for other things as well, and don't just pigeonhole yourself only thinking fashion. Now, it is possible that maybe that is all you're going to be doing, but it's also very possible that if you have success in the fashion world, you might want to explore other areas. And if you do find that you really want to be a model, but you find that for whatever reason the fashion world just isn't going to happen for you, don't forget there are other parts of the industry that might be really great for you, like commercial modeling, that will allow you to still follow your passion and give you an opportunity to have a lot of fun. So anyhow, Vanessa, I wanted to thank you so much, and I wanted to find out from Joel if he is ready to start getting some of the questions to us.
Yeah, Aaron, we do have questions. In fact, let's get right into those. This is from Lauren in Connecticut,
Absolutely.
United States. She asks, if an agent in the U.S. connects me with an agent in another country, do I still pay the same percentage to the new agent? Or do I have to pay both agents a percentage of any bookings?
Do you want to take that one?
Sure. How it works is if you have an agent in the United States that places you overseas or to another agency, that original agent is called a mother agent. And that's what we like to do. We kind of share models. So you don't, when you get a booking with the agency overseas, they will take their commission, and from that commission, they will pay your mother agency like a finder's fee. It's a little percentage of that. For example, if the agency overseas is taking 20%, which is what they take in the United States as well, 20%, but not at the same time. So the maximum would be 20% out of your booking that the international agency would take, and then from that they will pay your mother agency usually half, 10% of that. So whether or not you have a mother agency or not, it's not going to make a difference in what the international agency takes. They're going to take their 20% or 30 or 40%, depending on the market, no matter what. So it's not going to increase the amount of commission that you pay just because you have a mother agent in the States and then you're working overseas.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing, for the model, it doesn't cost them any more to have the mother agent.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. This is from Jim in Dallas. There's been a lot of talk about women in the fashion world, but is there a lot of work for men as well?
Yes, absolutely. The men are they don't make the big millions like the top supermodels do, but there are men, of course, that have really good careers, and many of them go on into acting careers and other things as well. So yes, we love to help develop male models and get them started and working overseas and around the world.
Now, Vanessa, I was wondering maybe you could explain For male models, do they also generally start as young as female models?
They can, but it's more of a junior type market. It would really be on a sort of a per model basis. We look at the model and see how developed they are for their age. But generally they start a little older. Guys around 18, 19 is good. 16 is a bit young, but I have had guys start internationally at that age because they just have a certain look that's very appealing to the agencies. So, but they can work longer in the fashion market. But then, having said that, the industry really has changed over the last few years. It's not as restrictive as it used to be with the women kind of ending their careers in their 30s. A lot of them now, their careers are getting better in their 30s. They've done all the beginning part, the fashion magazines and things, and now they've developed into a major, a brand. They're kind of a brand marketing person, a brand ambassador. So, yeah, so to answer your question, Erin, I think your question was
Thank you.
the age for male models. Yes, they can start at the same age as the girls. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. This is from Ellie. She lives in Dublin, and she says, I am still in school. Is it possible to work in Asia for only a few months while I am on holiday from school?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the busiest time is the summer months for new models to go over there. So that's very standard. Yeah, so it's fine that you're in school and you should stay in school and finish high school for sure. And then just work in the summer months or sometimes spring breaks. Some people do some homeschooling a little bit, but yeah, it's no problem to go for a couple months in the summer.
Okay. We have another question about travel. This is Jamie in Seattle. Do most agents pay for travel and living accommodations if I'm sent to Europe or Asia for work?
It really depends on the model and the agency. And I know I say that it depends a lot, and I don't mean to be vague, but it really is on a case-by-case basis who your agent is, what we can negotiate. There's a lot of different factors that are involved. So in the Asian market, that's one of the markets we really like, is because they will usually advance airfare, hotel accommodations, and will give a guarantee. So, for example, they'll guarantee you're going to earn $20,000 or more, and for the top models, they can get guarantees well over $100,000 for a 2-month contract. They're going to guarantee you're going to make that money whether you actually do or not. You're going to go home with that minus deductions, minus the cost of your apartment, your airline travel, and everything. I think that models need to understand that agencies never pay for anything. They will advance. So you may think they're paying for it, but at the end of the day, it's coming out of your work and your off of your account. So in Europe, it would depend on how good the model is, how strong their book is, how sure they are that he or she is going to work. If they're really a brand new model, they generally won't advance a whole lot and will expect you to get yourself there. But if you're a very strong model with a really good book and they know you're going to work, they're not going to have a problem. But if they're developing you, they want you to get yourself there, usually, on your own. That's why we don't
Vanessa,
send models over to Europe that much.
Vanessa, when you were talking about agents, advancing money, typically when fashion models need to have test shots done for their portfolio, is that something that the agency will also front, or do they expect the model to pay for the photos?
They usually will front that. If they are going to, they will definitely front it if they are signing a model saying, yes, we want to take you into our development division, we're going to start marketing you, that sort of thing. Then almost always they will advance all that, send you out to the photographers and start building your book for you. And then when you start working, you will pay them back. So you don't have to spend a lot of money in the beginning for the fashion side. The commercial market's a little bit different, as you know, Erin.
And I'm curious, like, does the new fashion model, are they able to talk with the agent and say, so how much am I going to have to reimburse you for my test shots?
Yeah, I think that they should have that information. Absolutely. Say, yeah, if you're going to advance this, just let me know what it is. I would do in my contracts and with my contracts with other agencies, well, when the model would sign a contract, I would often include a clause that put a cap on how much of an account that they could be running, a tab that they could run. That they couldn't go over that without the models or the agent's permission or express written permission to go over that, just so that it didn't get out of control. Because while in Asia, if you don't make enough money to cover all your expenses, they don't expect you to pay it back. But things have really changed in the United States and in Europe that you could actually be in debt to that agency, and they will expect you to pay it back. And if you switch agencies, say that's not working out with that particular agency, you switch over and you have a debt with that other agency, they will expect you to pay it, or the new agency will pay it off for you. And then you'll owe that new agency.
That's interesting. Now, have you ever heard of a situation where a new model will say, and I'm just throwing out a number, I have no idea what it would cost to have some test shots done with a photographer, but let me just say, $750. And the model says, well, you know what? I know of a couple of other photographers that will shoot it for a lot less than that. Or you're going to be putting me up in model housing, and I'm going to be spending, I don't know, $1,000 a month. And once again, I'm just throwing out a number. I have no idea what the costs are.
That's pretty accurate.
I'd rather stay someplace else. So are all those things negotiable, or are you going to be viewed as kind of a pain when you're first getting started with an agency?
I think that it's no problem if you want to stay somewhere else. Housing is not an issue. You're never forced to stay at the model's apartment. And often, after you've been with an agency for a little while, maybe you started out at the model's apartment for a little while, the models get to know each other, and they actually share apartments. We find like a model will have an apartment in New York, and she travels a lot. So when she's over in Europe, she might make friends that need an apartment in New York. We've had a lot of that, where you'll make friends and you'll kind of stay at another model's place alone, or with one other model, so you're not stuck in a model's apartment with 7 or 8 models. And it can get expensive, so there's that. But with regard to the pictures and who the agencies, if you're with a major agency, any of the top ones, and that's the only type that we ever work with, I would not second guess their choices in photographers. Don't offer, say, oh, well, if you want to go shoot with somebody else, go ahead, but get their permission. Because agents, once you get to that level, they're going to be very protective of your image. They're going to want to know exactly what's out there, what pictures are being taken, and how you're being presented to the world. Because the last thing they need is some bad pictures or a bad photo shoot getting out there and hurting your image, which could cost you a big campaign down the road. So you really want to follow their guidance.
And I guess the other thing too is, each agent or each agency has a certain style and a certain look that they want all of their models to have. So if they know somebody who shoots that way because they've been working with them for a long time or working with her for a long time, then it seems like it would be silly for a model to second guess that and try to find somebody else. It just doesn't seem like it's a smart business move to try to do it that way.
No, you're right, Aaron. It wouldn't be smart, because they're trying to develop a certain image for that model, so they want to make sure that they have control over all of that.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you for the answers. So this is from Lonnie in Nashville, and she asks, how safe is it for young girls, I am 17, to try and get work in other countries outside of the U.S.? And I guess I'll add on to that. Is it safe inside the U.S. too for young girls?
Well, is the world really safe for young girls no matter what you're doing? I mean, you got to be smart in no matter what, particularly if you're traveling at that young age, and if you're alone. It would depend on where you're going. Some markets are safer than others. Some of the European markets, I wouldn't send a girl over there unless I knew that she knew how to kind of protect herself and knew and I don't mean physically protect herself, but that would be good. But I mean, to know what is right and what is wrong. And because when you're first starting out, you're going to get a lot of
outside influences. You're going to get all sorts of people telling you all sorts of things. And there's these guys that hang out in front of the agencies, and they try to get you to switch agencies because they get a commission. And they hang out in the bars, and they offer the models all sorts of stuff. We'll give you a free apartment. We'll give you all this free stuff. And to a 17-year-old or 16 or what, anybody, actually any age, it sounds very appealing, but at the end of the day, it can really be dangerous and not good. You must trust the people at the agency, that they always have your best interest at heart. They really do. They're very nice, and they want you to do well because, again, they're doing all this work, and they're working on commission. They don't get paid unless you get paid, and they want to make sure you're working. So I think you have to be smart no matter what. Trust your mother agency. Make sure you're going to good agencies, and just, keep an open line of communication. If you're approached by people that are telling you things, don't just jump at it right away. I've seen models, that we've sent out to agencies to do appointments, all day, that they'll go and do 6 or 7 appointments in a day just to do sort of a meet and greet. And the first agency they meet, they sign on the dotted line and don't tell their mother agent that they've done it. And it just, I can't tell you the nightmare that creates for everybody. So back to your question about safety, I think you have to be smart all the way around. Hopefully your mother agency has put you with a good agency that maybe has a house mother, we call them, that stays at the apartment, or, and you check in all the time and that sort of thing. So
now,
I hope that answers your question.
Vanessa, well, just to kind of add like a little sub-question to that, would it be typical, let's say you're sending somebody to Japan, and so they fly to Japan, they meet, the agency director or their booker. Would it be common to have, a little intro meeting where you sit down, almost like an orientation, and just say, okay, so these are the areas that you're going to be working in. This is how it's going to work. We're going to be picking you up in a shuttle. These are the areas you should never be going into because it's outside of this area and it's not a great. So basically, do the agents, sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk with the new models that are coming to their country?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think that hopefully you're so busy working that you don't have time to go wandering around and doing things. And once you get to those places, it's pretty obvious where people are going, and you're going to meet other models, and they can give you advice, and the agents will tell you, yeah, absolutely, they're going to give you some advice on what to do and what not to do.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it was actually very good. Thank you. Let's get to maybe 2 more questions here, and then we'll wrap up for today. So this is from Carol from London, and this, again, talking about travel. She asks, are there ever any guarantees offered to models who travel to other countries? And I guess she's talking about, guarantees of work or some type of employment.
There's never a guarantee in this business, ever. None of us know if we're going to be working tomorrow. So, even the big actors, you have a pretty good idea, that Brad Pitt's probably going to get a job tomorrow, but you never know, So I think you have to realize that, as a self-employed person, which you are as a model, that you just have to, you have this good team around you, you do the best you can, you go to your go-sees, and you just make sure you're doing everything possible. But there is no guarantee that anybody will work. We can't get in the minds of the clients. We do the best we can, but if we could guarantee people work all the time, agents would be billionaires. It wouldn't be as hard work as it is.
And Vanessa, I think you made a really good point, and I agree with that 100%. Look, I've been making my living as an actor and a commercial model for over 27 years, and you're right, there's no guarantee I'm ever going to book another job for the rest of my life. And I think that what's really interesting about that concept is that, if you ever run into a situation where somebody is making you a guarantee, yes, sign with me, I'm telling you, you're going to be a star, you're going to be, doing, runways in Paris and New York and all, you know what, I would either ask for the money up front or start searching elsewhere, because it's one thing if somebody says you've got a great look, great personality, your stats are right, I think there's a tremendous amount of potential, I could see where you could possibly make a lot of money and be very successful. Sure, those are the kinds of things that are nice to hear, but that's also very different than somebody guaranteeing you work and guaranteeing you money, because, and Vanessa, you're 100% accurate, there are no guarantees in this business. And the fact of the matter is that there are no guarantees in any business.
Right, and absolutely. And while you were saying all that, it brought to mind this scam that's been going around, where young people are contacted either through Facebook or some other kind of social media or email or something, telling them that they have been hired for a modeling job, and the client is very excited. They're going to pay them, say, $5,000 or whatever, and they're going to pay them in advance. And then they send them this money order, and then the model says, oh, that's fantastic. And the scammer will say, well, I'm going to send you this $5,000 money order, but in there it includes money for the makeup artist and the stylist and people like that. So right, and so take out your portion and send us back the rest. And by the time you've sent money back and that money order's been cashed, then the bank realizes it's a fake money order, and you're out a couple $1,000s because you're never going to get that money back. I'm not just saying this because I'm a mother agent, but you have to have a mother agent. A mother agent would spot that in 2 seconds, that's not good. So clients do not pay in advance and then have you fly in later. It just does not work that way. So if you ever get contacted that way, the other thing is that legitimate scouts almost never scout on Facebook or those kind of places. We let people know where we are, but we want them to contact us directly. We're not going to start looking at thousands of Facebook pages looking for people. It is so rare, I can't even tell you.
Well, I guess the main thing is, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And what's really important in all aspects of this business is trust your instincts. And if something doesn't quite feel right, if something doesn't sound right to you, trust yourself, because you're probably being accurate.
Yeah, and if they ask you to do an interview on webcam and they've contacted you, it's different if you've contacted and it's a legitimate agent. But there's a lot of times where these scammers, and who knows what kind of creepy guys these are, but they will use the name of a legitimate agency. And the email looks very legit and everything. Call that agency directly. If they say they're from Ford, New York, call Ford, New York. Don't take their word for it. Make sure. We get emails all the time, asking if we've contacted people, and we haven't. So we want to make sure that they know. We do put notices on our website of how to watch out for that.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. So last question, guys. This is from Lindsay in Chicago, and this is shifting gears a little bit more to the business end of things. She says, can you talk a little about taxes? Are they taken out for the model, or is it the model's is it the model's responsibility personally to handle the taxes?
It's all of that.
Well,
but you go ahead, Aaron.
Let me just.
You know.
That's okay. I was just going to jump in real quickly. I can tell you there are two different things. One is, in the commercial modeling world, at least in the States, there are no taxes taken out of your paycheck. Unlike if it's a union acting job, then taxes are withheld, Social Security is withheld. I mean, all that stuff is done for you. But if you were being paid let's say $300 or $2,000 or $10,000 for a commercial modeling job, you will get that full amount minus your probably a 20% commission fee that goes to the agent. So it is really, really important that you have an accountant, somebody who knows exactly what kinds of fees you should be setting aside, so that when it comes time to pay taxes at the end of the year, you've saved up the money in order to pay it. And I've known a number of very successful commercial models who, it just simply didn't do that. and they ran into some very serious financial problems. And these guys were making a lot of money. And because I can tell you, it's easy. You get a check for $500, $1,000. It's easy to spend it, and use it in other ways. So, and I'll let Vanessa, talk about the fashion end of it. But what you really need to do is make sure that you do have a professional who can handle your taxes, who can really sit down with you and explain exactly how much you should be setting aside, because in the commercial modeling world, taxes are not withheld.
Right, and it can be the same depending where you're working as a fashion model, but over in Europe and in Asia they do deduct the taxes, and we tell the models to make sure that they keep really, really good records so that when they return home that they're not paying a double tax, so that they're not paying taxes in their home country on that income again, because there are certain waivers and things that accountants understand. There's files, you can file certain documents so that you're not paying taxes 2 times.
So I guess basically the same thing holds true. Make sure whether you're a fashion model and you're potentially paying taxes overseas, or even if you're working in the States, just make sure you've got a professional who can really help explain to you exactly how to take care of your finances so that you don't run into any issues later.
Exactly, and that's what any smart business person would do, So.
Great. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for being with us today. This was fantastic. I know everybody's learned a lot. We had a lot of great questions. And Erin, thank you so much for hosting once again. We really appreciate it, guys.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was so much fun. Vanessa, thank you so much. You're great.
You're welcome. Love you guys. So I'm happy to do it anytime.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thanks so much for all of our audience and community members that were here, our season pass members, as well as people who purchased the fashion modeling workshop. We were so excited to have you part of this workshop today. If you'd like more information about Vanessa and what she does, you can reach out to her. Her website is modelscouts.com. That's modelscouts.com. You can find out more about what she does with fashion modeling. And of course, if you'd like to find out more about Erin and all the different resources, the website for How to Model is simply howtomodel.com. And you can find us on Facebook. We're building a great community over there of actors and models and agents and all sorts of people in the industry. And that's over at facebook.com/howtomodel. And finally, if you really want to take your career to the next level, commercial modeling or acting, and you'd like to do some one-on-one coaching with Erin, some one-on-one work online, he has spots that open up, a few spots each month. You can send him an email. His email address is Aaron, AARON, @howtomodel.com, and he'll get that and just put in the subject line that you'd like to talk to him about one-on-one coaching, and he can open up a spot probably either this month or next month to talk with you about that, because I know those do fill up quickly, and he only has a few of those limited spaces. So we'll see you at the next workshop, hopefully. Stay tuned to all the emails, the community emails, the Facebook page. We'll be announcing the next workshop and where it is and when it is. If you're a Season Pass member, obviously you get into that workshop at just the Season Pass membership because you're a part of our Season Pass program. So once again, everybody, thank you so much. Vanessa and Erin, thank you. And we'll talk to everybody really soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.